All right. Well, a couple of months ago, I made a video talking about this to some degree about scorecards and scoring fights. And basically, I talked about how, certain people like certain types of styles of fighters and they look at the fight differently. You may see one thing, I may see another. You may like one thing more than I do. Obviously, there is the four areas of criteria of how a boxing match is scored. And predominantly, the one area of criteria that most people talk about is the clean, effective punching. But, how do you always determine what is clean and effective? And the key word being effective, because we're not getting hit with those punches. We can only look at them and see how the fighter reacts to them. And a lot of times, in real time, the punch looks a lot more devastating than it really is. We've seen in the first Manny Pacquiao Tim Bradley fight in that first round when Tim Bradley stumbled backward and Jim Lampley told us, "Oh, what a left hand!" That no left hand actually landed and Tim Bradley lost balance. So, depending upon where you are when you're watching a fight, if you're live or if you're watching it at home, sometimes you may be seeing something that you're not really seeing. So that's why when we say the sport is subjective, that's one way that the sport can be construed as being subjective. But also, too, when you look at the criteria for scoring boxing matches, clean, effective punching, defense, ring generalship, and effective aggressiveness. Ring generalship and effective aggressiveness are two of the hardest things to really interpret because my definition of ring generalship is being able to enforce your style on your opponents. So if you're a defensive fighter and your opponent is really a volume type puncher, and if he's throwing a lot of punches and he's not landing any of them, even though he's moving forward and you're moving backward, to me, it looks like he's following you around the ring. That's how I would interpret it. That he would be following you around the ring and you're sucking him in and you're making him miss. You're forcing him off balance. He's the one who's looking awkward. Another person may say, well, that guy's making the fight. He's the effective aggressor. So one guy could say that's, ring generalship on the fighter who's moving backward, whereas the aggressive fighter, the guy who's moving forward, he's trying real hard, but he's missing everything he's throwing. Someone else may say, well, he's the effective aggressor. So that's why this sport is so subjective. And then you may have, someone land more jabs than his opponent, while his opponent may land more power shots. But it may appear that those jabs are actually landing harder than the other fighter's power shots. So that's why when you go back and you look at CompuBox, which I think is a very flawed way to look at fights, and it's a very flawed way to get an accurate interpretation on how the fight is going. Some people live and die by CompuBox. So we're all biased. We're all biased to things we like. I could be biased to vanilla ice cream because I like vanilla. You could be biased to chocolate. I could be biased to, thick women. You could be biased towards thin women. It's all about what you like. But in boxing, you may like a certain thing. I may like a certain thing. But we have to be objective when we're assessing how a fight is going. So even though I may like or favor the boxer or the counterpuncher in a fight, I have to be objective enough to know when that particular style is not working against the volume guy, the aggressive guy, the guy who is the slugger. And there's been many times where, even though I favored the boxer, I've actually picked, or I've actually said that the slugger would win, and I've actually picked the slugger to win. So, I can go back when I watched Andre Dirrell versus Carl Froch. I picked Andre Dirrell to win that fight, but at the end of that fight, I thought Carl Froch won. Now, Andre Dirrell is the boxer. That's the type of style that I favor. But I actually thought Carl Froch won because I thought, to me, it looked like Andre Dirrell was flopping around, falling on the canvas a lot. I thought he was, complaining a lot. I thought he was trying to do a lot of antics in that fight. I thought he did some good things, but I also thought, while he was playing around, Carl Froch was actually outworking him and hitting him and landing some good shots on him. That was a very close fight. Could have gone either way. I wouldn't complain if you thought Andre Dirrell won, but I actually thought Carl Froch did the better work. And I favored Andre Dirrell's style. That's the type of style. He's more of the boxer. He's more of the technical guy. He's more of the slick guy. And even though I favored him going in and I picked him to win, I thought that Carl Froch beat him. Same thing. Devin Alexander, Lucas Matisse. Now, Lucas Matisse, although he can box a bit, Devin Alexander was thought to be the better technical boxer going into that fight. I picked Devin Alexander to win. I would favor the Devin Alexander style over Lucas Matisse style because I do tend to like boxers better than I like aggressive power punchers. I like the slick boxer better than the power puncher. That's just my preference. But in that fight, I thought Lucas Matisse won. So history has shown that I've been objective enough to know that the boxer is not always going to be able to outbox the aggressive fighter. But in a situation where it's a close fight, you know what I'm saying? It's a close fight. Going back to what I talked about earlier, you got a guy moving forward but missing a lot, guys moving back, forcing the other guy to come forward, chase him around off balance. There's just so many fights like that where it's like, who do you like? Do you like the guy coming forward, or do you like the guy who's making a miss? Do you like the guy who's throwing jabs, or do you like the guy who's landing power shots? Guy lands 12 jabs, the other guy lands 3 power shots. The 3 power shots may appear to be harder than the jabs or be more effective than the jabs. So what do we do? Do we score the science or do we score the violence? That's the thing. Facial damage, again, is just a stupid way of looking at fights, because I've explained this 1,000 times. I could get hit in the eye with a real good shot and my eye could swell up like a balloon. I could have a hematoma, just because of bad luck. I got hit in the right spot. I got hit flush. I just got hit perfectly. But then the rest of the fight, the guy doesn't lay a glove on me, and I'm sitting there outboxing him. And at the end of the fight, this guy doesn't have a scar on him, but my face looks like I just got my head slammed up against a brick wall. So based on that, do I lose the fight if I outbox the guy the rest of the fight? We've gone over this several times. It's not a video game. It's not Mortal Kombat. You don't get fatality points here. Some guys, again, they bruise easier than others. You could look at a fight and think that the facial damage is caused by punches. It could even be caused by an elbow. Could be caused by headbutts. When you really look close at a fight, and you see guys' heads get smashed together. Now, a lot of you guys thought that Chocolito Gonzalez won over the Thailand guy there. I always have a hard time pronouncing this guy's name. Varise, whatever his name is. Okay? But if you looked at the facial damage at the end of that fight, Gonzalez definitely looked like the loser. He definitely looked like the loser in that fight. So the whole facial damage, the whole boxing being more of who inflicts more damage on the other opponent, who out of the 2 opponents, who's the guy who's inflicting the more damage, it's not always about that, because it's a sport. And the whole theory of who would you rather be in a round, well, again, I mean, if I'm in a round and I'm outboxing the guy and I'm kicking the crap out of him, and then he headbutts me and puts a 7-inch gash across my eye, be the guy that doesn't have a 7-inch gash across my eye, but doesn't mean I lost a round. So that's the thing. I mean, we have to really take a look at it. And, can look at fights and say, I scored it for this guy, but if you scored it the other way, I have no problem with that. But it just seems like people, they score a fight and automatically their scorecard is gospel, and anyone who disagrees or scores the fight differently than them, they don't know what they're talking about. They start going crazy. They start insulting someone else who doesn't agree with them, and then the ad hominem attacks come into play. And I just think that it's kind of stupid. It's kind of childish, and it's just kind of closed-minded. It's a myopic viewpoint, and I think it just shows ignorance. Because again, you could look at that Danny Jacobs fight, Gennady Golovkin fight. If you thought Golovkin won, okay. If you thought Jacobs won, okay. I thought Jacobs won. That's my opinion. I thought Andre Ward beat Kovalev. And again, I am biased towards the boxer. But I've just showed you examples in the past where I've picked the boxer and the fights, did not go my way, and I actually scored them for the other opponent who's not perceived to be the boxer. So, I'm objective enough to know when, the boxer loses, because the boxer's not going to win every time. It just doesn't happen. When Floyd Mayweather, when he fought Jose Luis Castillo the first time, I picked Floyd Mayweather to win the fight, but I thought Jose Luis Castillo, I thought he won the fight. I thought it was still close, but I thought he beat Floyd Mayweather. Okay? And Floyd Mayweather's the boxer, and Castillo's the grinder. He's the hard worker, but I thought Castillo won the fight. I scored it for Castillo. So it's not like I'm automatically gonna just go with the style that I like. I can tell you and be objective enough to admit that the boxer didn't win that time. I'm not going to sit there and just say, just because this guy's the boxer, that automatically he's going to win the fight, and I'm going to score for him regardless if the style is not effective on the night. That's not how I score fights. I score fights, the way I see them. I don't have any of these rules like you have to take it from the champion, you have to kill the guy has to look like his face went through a meat grinder at the end of the fight, or you don't win. I don't care about all those things. Those things are not important to me. All I care about is I score each round, and at the end of the fight, I add up the rounds, and that's how I do it. I don't have any of these unwritten laws, these unwritten rules. That's just how I see it. If you guys can sit there and tell me that you have to take it from the champion, so define what taking it from the champion means. So automatically, that champion has a built-in advantage because he has the title. That's just not how it works. So because the Chicago Bulls won the championship the last time, so they don't lose a game unless someone beats them by 20 points. So you can't beat them by a point. It just makes no sense. It's never been applicable in any other sport, so why should it be applicable in the sport of boxing? Score the rounds, add up the point at the end, and that's what it is. Don't watch a fight and look at it as one big round. Like I've said before, watch every round and score every round, okay? Just because a guy may lose 3 rounds, and in those 3 rounds, he gets his ass handed to him, okay? And then in the other 9, he may just beat the guy or eke him out, okay, he still won the fight. It's like 12 battles in a war, and you score each battle, and then you add up the battles won at the end of the war. Simple and plain. Simple and plain. All right, guys. That's all for now. Until next time, talk to y'all soon. Beep is out. Peace.